All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be getting into the Week 3 preview here. We have a massive 13-game slate. Let's go ahead and break it down. So it is important to call out, just kind of taking a peek at the games that we have on that 13-game slate. It does seem like we're only going to get like one game that's going to be very high scoring. That's going to be this game between the Raiders and the Commanders, which to me already seems a little bit too high, but most of the games are going to be about 44.5, 45.5, so nothing too crazy there. Also, no games that are like extremely low scoring as well that we should be avoiding. Now, I do want to start off with the quarterbacks. The issue thus far this season has been, for me at least, that the quarterback position has been tough to really differentiate which plays you should be going out of your way to target, okay? Running back, receiver, tight end has kind of been easy. The quarterback position has been more difficult. I do think that changes in week 3 here, where we are getting some pretty cheap quarterback plays that are going to be pretty darn easy clicks. So we'll start with probably the most obvious one, Dak Prescott here. Dak Prescott gets a matchup here with the Chicago Bears, who, look good, I would say, in that first half against the Minnesota Vikings, but I think we are seeing that was more due to JJ McCarthy just not being that good. I touched on that a bunch on the Monday Night Football preview. He proved me right. Now he's injured now as well, so don't want to go into that too much. And, low key, kind of good for JJ McCarthy that he gets a few weeks off. He just had a baby as well. It's good to spend that time with your new child and also your wife. So in a weird way, it's like, get right. Maybe learn from Carson Wentz a little bit. That could be a spot, and that will be a spot that we mentioned here DFS-wise. Carson Wentz has been priced. Very interesting there. But Dak Prescott here gets a good matchup against the Chicago Bears, who did allow J.J. McCarthy to have that fourth quarter comeback, who did allow Jared Goff to really do whatever he wanted. Now, you could argue a little bit of a revenge game for the Lions, where they're motivated to put up a bunch of points, which could be skewing the 32nd rank here for the Chicago Bears, which I would slightly agree with. But Dak Prescott has now looked really good for 2 straight weeks. He has thrown the football a decent amount in 2 straight weeks. Now, the stats in week 1 did not exactly say that he played all that great. Okay, I get that. But we all saw that game. We saw CeeDee Lamb drop multiple passes. It should have been a much bigger and better game for him. And so the fact that he gets this matchup against the Chicago Bears at such a cheap price tag to me is so appealing. I think he is going to be one of my favorite plays at the quarterback position. Now, that being said, we also have Bo Nix in a probably a good matchup here against the Chargers. It really does depend how the Chargers look on Monday Night Football. I am recording this video Monday afternoon, so we'll have to see there. Bo Nix typically is a safe, reliable option, though. I don't mind him as a click, but right now, Dak, maybe Bo Nix. Then we can go lower. So, yes, Caleb Williams has been pretty terrible, but the Dallas DST hasn't really been that good either. And I do think there's a slight risk that Caleb Williams could get replaced by Tyson Bagent if he has a terrible first half, because he's been garbage. He has been really bad. Okay. And although the stats do not necessarily suggest that, I wouldn't be surprised if Ben Johnson's like, all right, I'm sick of it. He's not processing the plays well. Let's get Bagent in there. Let's get a functional offense going. Maybe Caleb Williams can kind of get the Justin Fields treatment, where if you guys remember when Justin Fields was with the Bears, he kind of had to have Tyson Bagent come in and in a weird way show him how to operate the offense effectively. That could be what happens with Caleb Williams as well, but he's risky. Caleb Williams is risky, okay? But he does hold upside at a very cheap price tag. I don't mind him. More of a GPP risk from there. Let's see. Drake May. Yes, Drake May is a phenomenal click, I would say, going against the Steelers. The Steelers DST, to me, was going to be one of the better defenses on paper. That has not really worked out through 2 weeks, okay? They have kind of made Sam Darnold look really good and Justin Fields look really good. I mean, that's not good. Those are supposed to be, Justin Fields is like, I don't want to keep bashing on Justin Fields, but he's maybe an NFL starter. Sam Darnold, I would say he is an NFL starter caliber, but both are not like great quarterbacks, right? Like both are not top 15. Both are somewhat questionable starting quarterbacks in the league. The fact that the Steelers have let them dominate is interesting. So now you get Drake May in a seemingly good spot. Okay, just had a pretty good game against the Dolphins. But the issue with Drake May, guys, is that he did not throw the football that much last week in a game that ended up being a pretty big shootout. Now, to me, what you would do against the Dolphins was just run the football bunch. And so to me, against the Steelers, you would throw the football bunch. So there is a little bit of game script and just how the Patriots go about attacking that. That's how I would go about doing that. So to me, it does make sense what they did last week. It would make sense for them to pass the football a little bit more here in week 3. And then let's go ahead and talk about Carson Wentz. So in a weird way, I really do like Carson Wentz being the quarterback for the Vikings. Like if you think about it, KOC, Kevin O'Connell, has had a lot of success with players like Carson Wentz who, are kind of established players in the league. And although he kind of came to the Vikings late, I think KOC is going to be able to do a proper game script to make him useful, especially for DFS purposes. It really does not take much for him to do much, right? He has to get 12 DFS points to score 3x. And I think there's a good chance that he ends up doing that. Like, he still has Justin Jefferson there. And I know TJ Hawkinson looks washed. I get that. After that, the offense has kind of looked lost as well, but he's so cheap. He's so cheap. And they did go out of their way to target him. And so at the min price, he does provide us a bunch of flexibility. And for me, this is kind of a slate where I do think we want to be paying up for the studs. It's kind of like the first true NFL DFS week where I do think we want to pay up for some of the studs that we are getting on the slate at the running back and at the receiver position. We're no longer getting that soft pricing in a lot of the spots. So let's go ahead and jump into some of those running back plays that we're going to be paying up for. All right, so running back wise, guys, I do think we should be just paying up for Bijan Robinson. He gets a good matchup there against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, I don't really care too much about this right now, but if we look at the spread, there's no way, really. The Falcons are only 3.5 point favorites. That's a little bit shocking to me. I would have thought they would be opening up as much heavier favorites in that game. But either way, the Falcons are going to be the favorites to win in that game. And this is a good matchup going against the Panthers. I do think it's a matchup that we want to be targeting. So what was interesting about last week, guys, against the Vikings, we saw the Falcons run out a lot of 12 personnel to really get the run game going, and Bijan Robinson was able to get going in that game via the run game. Whereas in week 1, you just do not try to run the football against the Bucs, at least I think at this portion of the season. We'll see if that changes throughout the season. They're able to get him going in the passing game. Okay, he's their best player. Everyone knows it at this point. They're going to try to get him involved, and I want to be paying up for him. Okay, I think we should be paying up for the studs. Now, from there, I do think Christian McCaffrey is a little bit overpriced. At the same time, his role does seem pretty much secure. He's going to get, around 20 opportunities, 18 to 20 opportunities. He's a fine play, but I don't think we necessarily need to pay up for him. I think I would rather go with maybe Bucky Irving. We'll see how he does Monday Night Football-wise and just how the Bucs look. But Jonathan Taylor, guys, again, I was saying Daniel Jones to me was a very good late round best ball draft quarterback because this was the best offense that he had been in. This team as a whole, I thought, was much better than people were giving them credit for because of the quarterback upgrade to Daniel Jones. And I thought it would be a massive upgrade for Jonathan Taylor as well in terms of consistency, in terms of him being a reliable option in fantasy football and now for DFS purposes as well. 25 carries last week, 18 in week 1, going against the Titans, who have been a fine defense, don't get me wrong, but their offense isn't good. The team as a whole isn't good. And so I do think that increases the likelihood for Jonathan Taylor to end up having a good game. So I do think we want to be paying up for him. The workload's there. He's playing about 90% of the snaps. He's one of the few running backs that's like truly getting a workhorse workload. Then that being said as well, we do have Alvin Kamara there and at kind of getting a workhorse workload as well, playing about 85% of the snaps, which we would want. And he does get a matchup against the Seahawks that I do think will allow him to be productive as well. The workload's been there. He's been a safe option. You do worry about the kind of ceiling that he has just because, it is the Saints and the Saints have been struggling there. I do want to call out Chase Brown. He was someone that for me was a core play last week. That did not work out. Did end up with 16 touches. It was weird. Like, I felt like week 1 against Cleveland, they ended up being a pretty decent rush defense, I think. Last week, it felt like he could have had a massive game, but maybe it was because of the quarterback switch to Jake Browning that it just kind of got lost in the shuffle, that the coaches just weren't noticing it. But I'm like, man, there were so many plays in the passing game that were there for him that if they just chose to dump it off to him, he could have went for 15 yards basically every time. It was strange to me. And those were open a bunch, or even like outside tosses. I don't know. It's just, and again, probably due to the quarterback issue there. But it was weird. I want to be surprised, though, given the quarterback switch and then given the matchup with the Vikings, if they get Chase Brown going a little bit more in this game, and he is getting the workload that we want. Again, it wouldn't be shocking to see him have just that massive game that he really hasn't had just yet. And honestly, guys, for season-long leagues, this is a pretty good buy low opportunity. Some people are going to be worried that Joe Burrow is out for the season, which is a little bit of a worry. But the problem with the Bengals offense is not really the quarterback, it's the quarterback time. I know Jake Brown ended up throwing 3 INTs, but Joe Burrow really wasn't looking good thus far this season as well. To me, it's the offensive line, especially in the passing game. So to me, I think they're going to manufacture some ways to get Chase Brown the ball in the passing game a little bit more as the season progresses. That being said, I don't think Jake Browning is that bad. And so Chase Brown, who is a borderline first-round pick for some drafts, depending on when you drafted, I think is a good buy low opportunity there for season-long purposes. Now, there are going to be some other receivers that I end up talking about when I do my deep dive video, but this is more of just a preview. And kind of looking at the preview for this week, I do think we want to be paying up for the stud receivers, okay? And so what I mean by that, Puka Nacua, definitely a stud receiver. He had one rush that ended up resulting in a touchdown. Pretty awesome play by him, but it's the workload in the passing game, guys. 9 targets, 11 targets. A matchup with Philly that could end up being more of a pass-heavy script. He's just been going off, and I do think that he is just someone that we can consistently rely on to have a good game. That being said, if we are playing Dak Prescott at the quarterback, we probably want to be playing CeeDee Lamb, who is just going to get targeted heavily. They're going to have a pass-heavy script. He had a much better game last week, as I thought he would. Kind of more of a revenge game for himself after kind of blowing the game for them against the Eagles in week 1. And so he is someone that I'm going out of my way to target as well. Again, given this matchup there with the Chicago Bears. Now from there, I don't mind Jefferson. I don't mind Nico Collins. They're fine. We are getting some okay plays in this under 6K to 5K range. Ricky Pearsall, Quentin Johnston's interesting. DK Metcalf is in a good spot as well. The one player that I got on as the week progressed was Rome Odunze. In the 9-5 write-up, I ended up calling him out as a high exposure play. Had a thought of making him a core play as well, because I'm like, Jesus, he's playing 90% of the snaps. And I was kind of thinking that honestly DJ Moore would be kind of the stud receiver, just talent wise. I thought it was there, and I still think DJ Moore is more talented, but that's just not the role that they have him in. Rome Odunze is kind of being treated more so in like the Amon-Ra St. Brown role. And if he's going to continue to play that much, he's going to continue to get that many snaps, especially if the Bears are going to be playing from behind a bunch, which it seems like they're going to be. I really don't mind doing like a Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and Rome Odunze stack, especially at this price tag. Like if he's going to continue to be in this role, very cheap role or very cheap price tag for that role. Now we can continue on, guys. Like we are still getting some decent plays. Like Matthew Golden with Jaden Reed out should be due for a massive game. Okay, last week the 2 targets that he had could have easily been touchdowns if Jordan Love puts them on him. I do think there's a little bit of like a chemistry thing going on where Jordan Love didn't have as much training camp time with him because he had a thumb injury that I was working through. And I think that is throwing off their timing a little bit. Matthew Golden's such a fast receiver that, again, I think it's throwing off their timing, but it wouldn't be shocking to see him have a massive game. He's been open a bunch if you're watching the film. Jawan Jennings is at a cheap price tag. I really don't mind him. But I want to call it an interesting spot. So Brian Robinson Jr. apparently has a wrist injury. I think they're maybe making a slight excuse for some of the drops that he had in that game. But if he ends up sitting, to me, the player that stood out to me the most on film for them was Parker Washington. Okay, he only played about 26% of the snaps, but he is someone that, if Brian Thomas Jr. is out, could end up being a pretty great value. And again, I kind of thought he was their best offensive weapon. I shouldn't say that. Etienne looked good. Tootin actually looked solid as well. But Parker Washington really made some eye-popping plays in the passing game. So he could be someone that we're looking at as well. But the issue with this slate is I think we're getting like too many like around 4K receiver plays that we could be on, because it's kind of weird that this happened. So Jalen Naylor, we know he's the receiver number 2 for the Vikings for now. Hunter Renfrow. For me, guys, it's annoying that Hunter Renfrow has been having a solid start to the season thus far, target-wise and role-wise. 9 targets, 6 targets. Had a pretty massive game last week, almost 24 DK points, because in my best ball drafts, I was going on my way to target Bryce Young and Adam Thielen as late-round stacks for me. And yeah, that's super tilling that they traded Adam Thielen, because with the Coker injury, like I really think Adam Thielen would be having a great season right now as well to start the season. But Hunter Renfrow in that role is definitely appealing. And if you kind of look at Xavier Legette, really not doing much. I thought he would have an expanded role, and he has been getting the targets, guys. 8 targets, 7 targets. Just not being productive with that. Now, I will admit I haven't watched this game just yet here for the Cardinals and Panthers to really see what happened. I caught glimpses of it. Mostly Hunter Renfrow catches, and McMillan actually looked good. I did catch those catches live. He looks so smooth, guys. McMillan does. But again, I haven't seen much of Legette, so don't really know what's going on there. Wicks is someone that could get a little bit more run with Reed out. He actually started, which was a little bit surprising. Io Manor as well, guys. He is someone that has looked good and is playing a bunch there for the Tennessee Titans. And you would imagine they're probably going to be playing from behind. 6 targets, 7 targets like that there from him. I would expect him to be someone that we're looking at value-wise at under 4K. He's definitely interesting. From there, it is worth calling out Sterling Shepard, probably going to be in for a decent snap share in week 3 as well. Decent matchup there going against the Jets as well. He's someone that, if he goes off on Monday Night Football, might be someone that could potentially become chalk. I doubt it, but he's playing a bunch of snaps. We know the Bucs like to run out a lot of 11 personnel. What I want to see from him, not for my DFS lineups for Monday, but what I want to see from him is what he did in week 1. So he's not too popular, and then we could think about playing him there. From there, Xavier Hutchinson, the receiver number 2 for the Houston Texans. Definitely an interesting price if Christian Kirk is out as well. We have a bunch that I could get into. Like, there's a lot of decent plays there, but that's kind of the theme, is we do have a lot of receiver value if we need to get there. So tight end wise, I got to give myself another self pat on the back here for Tucker Kraft. So really, since he was a rookie, I've been calling him out as like a very good tight end play for us. I was really mad his rookie year when he was not getting snaps over Luke Musgrave. I'm like, what is going on? But then his second year, I was saying, draft him in your drafts. He will be a top 10 tight end. Now, granted, I was saying in best ball drafts, draft Luke Musgrave late, but also draft Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft is the guy you should be prioritizing, because I thought those two combined would be a top 10 tight end, but I mostly want to get to Tucker Kraft. It was like, all right, this position is going to be good, but Tucker Kraft is truly a very good tight end. And then this year as well, I was banging the drum on Tucker Kraft again. And so it's nice to see people finally like getting to him as like a good tight end, get into that thought process. You know, that whole time I was saying he is George Kittle pretty much, and now like freaking Field Yates from ESPN has been starting to get that take as well. It's funny how those takes that were probably seen as hot takes or fringe takes are now starting to become popularized. The fact that we could be getting a stud tight end at this cheap of a price tag is appealing to me. The interesting thing about that game against the Commanders is they were vocal about saying, we know we need to stop Tucker Kraft if we're going to be successful. And they couldn't do it. They knew he would be the player that'd be like the make or break point for them, and they couldn't do it. 7 targets, 124 yards, and a touchdown. Okay, now I will say the Cleveland defense has been pretty solid, but who's to say that's going to stop Tucker Kraft at this point, especially at that price tag? Now, I will say I don't mind McBride and Bowers, but it's like Kraft, and then we're getting some okay plays, like Warren's fine. I think Ertz is fine. Ferguson's fine. Jawan Johnson, who was my core play last week, I still think he's going to be a fine option, guys. Basically not leaving the field. Had 9 targets last week, 12 in week 1. Ended up with a touchdown as well. For the time being, for the Saints not having another tight end, he is going to be someone we should be targeting as well. From there, let's go down a little bit, because I do think the Fannin, rookie tight end, going against the Green Bay Packers in a game that probably should be a blowout, maybe he ends up getting a little bit more work. They are having him involved in the game plan, though, whether it's out of the backfield or at the tight end position or in the slot. He has been someone that has been involved, so I think he's intriguing. Then from there, we're looking at some tight end value. Be on the lookout to see the snap share between Tyler Conklin, who I think is their better pass catcher for the Chargers, and also Will Dissly, Monday Night Football-wise. If there's like a significant snap share for one of them versus the other, that could make one of those two end up being a great value. So just worth looking into. But I do want to call it Mason Taylor, who's getting a bunch of snaps. Now, he's not being productive. That offense has been bad, but I honestly think Tyrod Taylor being the starting quarterback, if Justin Fields is out, could be a slight upgrade for some of the pass catchers like him. And then Arario as well, the rookie tight end for the Seahawks, got a little bit more work last week. If you're looking for some like min price value, if you're trying to jam in the studs like I'm going to be doing, that's not terrible in terms of the options there for those two tight ends. And so DST wise, I don't really care. Whatever, we'll just toss in the lowest price one for now. We'll go with the Bucks, whatever. Then we have 3.2 left over, which I don't like. And so for a first look build, I'm honestly going to give you guys a kind of bad idea, but I also don't mind it. Again, I do think Carson Wentz at the min price is kind of crazy with Justin Jefferson still there. I think Carson Wentz at the very least will be able to improve on the things that JJ McCarthy has been, pretty poor at. The JJ McCarthy has really not been able to process the pre-snap reads he needs to make. I think JJ McCarthy will be a good quarterback. It's just the pre-snap reads are not there. The adjustments that he needs to make are not there, where I do think Carson Wentz will be able to do that. Thus, I think he'll actually end up being a better quarterback there. We'll see. I mean, Carson Wentz is you always worry about his health a little bit there as well. But that leaves us with like 5.1 left over for the flex. Now, this leaves us with a bunch of options that we could go with. We could just go with one of these guys here. Matthew Golden, more of a GPP play. Jawan Jennings, I'm fine with there as well. Junkins, you would expect to get a little bit more work. And he, honestly, guys, Junkins, just for what it's worth, looked like Nick Chubb 2.0. He really did, where he was not necessarily making defenders miss, but he was a hard-nosed runner running over a lot of players and did have a little bit of juke to him as well. And that was his first game with really not having that much of a camp. If you can, I would try to trade for him. To me, he was the second best running back in the draft. And I wouldn't say I necessarily saw that elite talent from him in week 1. But again, the fact that he looked as good as he did in week 1 with very limited camp or practice time, to me, was impressive. And he's only going to get more and more work. But for me, I think I'm going to actually slightly rebuild this. I'm going to go with Io Manor there as a value at his price tag, and then we can pay up. If we want to pay up at tight end, we can end up doing that. 4K left over. Johnson, there we go. A pretty solid build overall. Obviously, we would always love to be able to stack a lineup, but that's just not how this one's going to end up working out. But a decent first look build here for you guys to get you guys started for the week. I will be having a deep dive video out probably on Thursday, as well as some of my core plays and favorite values as well, or maybe stacks this week. Each week's always a little bit different with what we're looking at. I do think we have some pretty solid core plays, so be on the lookout for that. At least have a core plays video and deep dive video, and then be on the lookout for all my prop videos as well throughout the week, guys, for prize based underdog sleeper and all that as well. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys would like access to any of the tools available at 9to5sports.com, with the NFL DFS cheat sheet, the NFL DFS lineup optimizer, as well as a bunch of prop tools as well, all for a low monthly cost of $10 a month, guys. Check that out. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck, and as always, let's keep cashing.